Hi, everybody. Welcome to a mini episode of No Story is Sacred. If you've never listened before, we're basically four siblings who grew up talking about the art of storytelling. Now that we're adults, we're still talking about it, and we're inviting you to join the conversation. Today, we're going to talk about the formative works from our childhoods. So the stuff that made us us. I'm Pippin.
I'm Alex.
I'm Kat.
And I'm Brendan.
All right. So what I was thinking we could do is maybe each take turns doing one, until we each do like 3.
Ooh, I like that.
All right.
Right?
And then that way nobody's crowding up and stealing everybody else's references.
Well, I have a whole list of more than 3 just in case.
Oh yeah, I have like half a dozen, I think.
Same.
Bullshit any number, immediately.
And I have one written down that I figure belongs to someone else, so I wasn't going to mention it. All right. So the first thing I'm going to mention is the book series, The Enchanted Forest Chronicles by Patricia C. Reedy. I knew you were going to do that. All right. So the story behind that is one summer when I was young, I was being awful. And doing that little kid thing of going, I'm bored, I don't want to do it, there's nothing to do, and Kat was all like, read a book. Yep. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that, and she's like, nope, you're reading a book. I'm
like reading
what?
is boring. Ugh,
listen, when your parents are writers, there are only so many ways to rebel. So Kat went and grabbed a pile of books and went, pick one of these, read it. Because you were domineering and mean.
Yes. I have no shame.
And so I picked the book that had the dragon on it, 'cause why wouldn't you?
That's,
Dealing with Dragons is the first one. This is why it's one of my formative books. I remember all of it. It's dealing, talking, calling, and then searching for dragons.
Nice.
Right? And basically, one of the first books I read for pleasure. It has a female protagonist who does not take anyone's shit. It has dragons in it, and who doesn't love dragons?
It has feminism a lot.
It has feminism, because in the book, the main character, Cimarine, is a princess who runs away to the dragons, is not kidnapped by one, as is traditional. And she goes and hangs out with a female dragon named Kazul, who eventually becomes king of the dragons, spoiler alert.
Wow.
Because, and even though Kazul is a female dragon, she becomes king because the dragons have sense and know that king is not a gendered job. Queen is a completely different position, and none of them really want it. And also, the last time I reread it, in the second chapter when we actually meet the dragons, there's a mention. There's a female dragon, there's a male dragon, and there's a dragon who has not decided yet. And I was like, ooh, look at that.
Yep. And in fact, the 4th book has a dragon that has not picked a gender throughout the entirety of the book.
'Cause fuck gender. Really.
Amen, sister.
Anyway, the point is I love dealing with dragons. It's one of the books I constantly reread. It is feminist as fuck, which had an influence on me. And someday I'm gonna get a dragon tattoo for Kazul.
Aw.
Alright, who's up next?
I'll go next. And a kind of similar thing was Pip tricking me into reading books.
I love this story because I come off really great even though I was being really a huge bitch.
So, for a long time when I was younger, I wasn't reading, because, reading was boring, and none of the books that they give you when you're young are ever actually interesting.
Yeah, nothing assigned to us is ever fun.
No.
That's because I have my whole separate rant about that, but let's save that.
Yeah, so, but then Pip started reading a certain book series. And I, paid no attention to it at first, but then she, kept on reading it and wasn't hanging out with me.
And I kept reading bits out loud to you and then refusing to elaborate on what happened next.
That's giving it away, Pip. But, eventually it got to the point when we got to the third book of this series. that you refuse to continue reading it at all.
Out loud. I was still reading.
Yeah. Yeah. And basically told me to read it myself.
Yeah, so that's the story of how I tricked Alex into reading Harry Potter.
Could you clarify the reading level thing?
Well, I wouldn't really pay attention to what I was reading. I wasn't reading as fast or taking as much of it in as I should.
I see. So you gave a shit.
Yeah.
And your powers unfolded.
You learned one weekend, wait a second, this is fun.
And after that, I just started reading in bulk.
Nice.
Because you realized that there was shit out there that was actually fun and interesting.
Yeah. And also, kept the cat's 60-page rule.
Because it was the rule. Anyway, so in my list of formative things, at the very top I have Harry Potter, parentheses, probs Al's, in parentheses.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. And just, quickly. And it was really the third book that really cinched it.
Third book is great.
Yeah.
Shit got real.
Right. Bren, you up?
Sure. I'll go in a little bit of a different direction here. I remember one Christmas when I was a kid it was like an audio CD version of the Odyssey. Do y'all remember that?
Ooh, I don't remember. No, I don't.
It was, I would think it was the Odds
memory.
Bodkin version. But yeah, no, it was just the Odyssey, read aloud, had like little, musical accompaniment and stuff like that. It was actually a really nice production of the Odyssey done in audiobook format. And I tell you, I listened to that thing like every night for a while. And it probably made really messed up dreams and stuff like that because, Greek myths, they're kind of messed up like that.
Well, yeah. I
Yeah.
actually had a book of Greek myths, and that if I didn't have other things on my list that I was going to be listing, I would say that I just read that book over and over again. I loved the Greek myths.
Everybody could benefit from, going classic. Plus, it's the Odyssey. It's, it's straightforward-ish story to follow, and the good guys win in the end. I mean, his entire crew gets screwed over, but they were dicks.
Odysseus is such a dick. Like,
his crew was bigger dicks, though.
That's true.
And that's the important part.
That's the main takeaway. Don't be the biggest dick in the story.
Yeah, that helps. Don't piss off the gods. That's the takeaway.
That is always the takeaway.
All right, so let's move on to the next bit of formative fic.
Cat.
I'm gonna actually. I feel like this is a bit of a cop-out, but I'm gonna go with the genre, which is murder ballads.
Can you name one in particular?
So, for instance, a song that I actually still go back to a lot is the famous Flower of Serving Men, particularly Martin McCarthy's version. And in the famous Flower of Serving Men, we get cross-dressing, gender change, murderous mothers, PTSD talked about in a realistic fashion. In a
Birds that talk.
Birds that bleed blood from their eyes. Shit, yeah.
And technically she's homeless.
But that story, we don't ever find out why the mom wants to kill her. Wants to kill the main character. It just fucking starts at the point of change, which is my mother did me deadly spite, for she sent thieves in the dark of the night.
She didn't want to kill the daughter, she just wanted to kill her family.
Inheritance?
We have no idea. It's never talked about. I mean,
I always assumed she just didn't like the dude she married.
but then why kill the baby too? That's rough, man. And
Because it was related to the husband.
what's really great though is that we get like no verses of explaining the mom's motivation and 3 verses at the end describing her being burnt at the stake. I'm like, you know what? That's entertainment. That tells you something about the human condition and what people find interesting over the course of the folk process. And so that's been very formative for me. It's both the way story is told there, what people take away from it, and also there's frequently supernatural elements. And so I end up pulling a lot of that frequently into my writing.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Pip's turn.
All right.
Top of the order.
Yeah. My next thing, not going as highbrow as a genre.
Or as classical as Bran with Odysseus.
God damn.
Homer is good enough for Brendan.
Oh. I'm gonna do this next one just in case someone else tries to steal it from me.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Ooh.
Because even though, Joss Whedon is problematic, I'm gonna go with, as a person. It doesn't stop the fact that Buffy the Vampire Slayer, was one of the things I watched growing up, and, it deeply influenced me. I'm very certain there are still turns of phrases, that I say that I probably stole from Buffy, and there's nothing quite like that scene in season 2 of Buffy, when she's fighting, Angel, her ex-boyfriend who has turned evil.
Mm-hmm. As so many do.
Yeah. And they're literally fighting to the death because everything is life or death. Mm-hmm. And when you're a teenage girl, you feel that. Usually it's a bit more metaphorical. But for Buffy, it's always kind of literal. But there's that moment when she's, up against the wall, and Angel has and Jealous at this point, has a sword on her. And he's all like, look at you, you've got no weapon, no friends, no hope. You'll take all that away. What have you got? And she just says, me, and grabs his sword as he's about to stab and kill her and just pushes it back in his face and like breaks his nose.
Nice.
And just that moment she says, what's left? Me. And just, it, guys.
Aw. Alex.
Right. For my next one, I'm going to go full weeaboo.
Oh no.
Someone had to.
Well, yeah. The thing is, this anime wasn't actually mine. It was actually, I think, a gift to you, Kat. That was your...
What? Was this Revolution Girl?
No.
Well, what was it?
Slayer's the motion picture.
Oh. I think a friend of mine gave that to me, or maybe mom and dad. Anyway, go on.
I'm very certain it was yours because I was like, you got mad at me because I kept on watching it without your permission.
Oh no, it was definitely mine. I just don't remember who gave it to me. I remember watching it at a convention once, and I was watching it with friends, and I mistook my happy feelings for it being related to the film as opposed to hanging out with my friends. I was less pleased with it once I actually just owned it.
And that opened the door, right, Al?
Yeah. Now here's the thing. There's a lot of other stuff with anime in general, but for that one, what it mainly had was the two famous protagonists who both were extremely powerful and didn't give any shits.
Yeah.
They literally get confronted by a bunch of brigands, and there's no better term there. And he's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If that's all of you here, and cast fireball on them all.
Oh yeah, because they were monologuing and she wasn't even paying attention.
No.
I think she was drawing a circle around them while she wasn't paying attention to them or something.
Yeah.
Like a magic circle.
Yeah. I remember that. That was a good time.
Yeah.
Very big, macho, and threatening.
I have like zero memories of any of this.
I remember it. That's a good one, Al.
Yeah.
I approve. I mean, it's the Slayers. Come on.
And also it just gave me a real love for both high fantasy and female protagonists who just cause destruction.
Yeah.
I mean, she does destroy cities on the regular.
Which I think just makes her even cooler.
Hmm.
All right. Next.
All right. I'm gonna go for my second choice here. And actually, I'll change it a little bit even as I'm talking about it right now, because it was going to stay Star Wars, but we already spent way too much time talking about it last week.
Did we? I was busy being on Alderaan, so I don't know what you guys talked about.
So I'm going to change gears after a fashion here and go with Star Trek instead.
Ooh.
Just kind of a blanket, Star Trek. We're talking, I think we started in around the time, late Next Generation through Deep Space Nine and Voyager. And the reason why I mentioned Star Trek is I remember when I was young, seeing the holodeck and being like, you know what? I want to make that shit a reality.
Yeah.
And at first we were all like, ha ha ha, and then we watched you grow and went, oh shit.
He's serious.
He's gonna do it.
Of course you don't have the, let's project the room out here and all of a sudden Moriarty's taking over the ship, because that's totally what happens. But, nowadays, we have our VR headsets and stuff like that, and you can get some pretty cool immersive experiences now in VR that even when we were like kids and stuff like that weren't quite, imaginable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just the formative experience of like the almost the techno optimism of
Good word.
Star Trek as a series. I think it's something that is great when you're a kid to view, and it's something that even nowadays I think we could all appreciate as we kind of get firsthand encounters with a lot of new and bizarre technologies that we aren't really sure to this day how it's affecting us. Let's look back at Star Trek when we've already figured out all this nonsense and we have warp drives, yay, and holodecks, yay.
It's not just technical. What did you call it?
Techno optimism.
It's not just techno optimism though. Star Trek is, in many respects, just optimistic science fiction. Like, bad shit happens, but there's the genuine belief that we have become a better people, and it's often shown that way. The future is filled with science nerds. How fucking great is that? And that's something that we don't have a lot of now.
Mm-hmm. I was just reading a Tumblr post that used Star Trek as an example of a genre called hope punk.
Oh,
nice.
Which included things like Guardians of the Galaxy, because who wants to save the universe? I do. I live there. Samwise Gamgee's speech from The Lord of the Rings about the stories that matter. Things are bad now, but you live in the hope of a brighter future. The Discworld.
Oh, Discworld. Oh.
Discworld, because it doesn't try to make this idealistic life. Life is life. Some people suck, and some people are awesome. And we all just try to, go about our days being as awesome as we can be.
Oh man, Discworld.
So, Kat.
Uh-oh.
Speaking of hope punk, what do you hope to have for your next, entry here?
Alright, so, this is a little weird. This is not something that I read until I was a senior in high school. I was a, I didn't want to do calculus. And the teacher who taught calculus didn't want to let me quit calculus. And so the only solution I could find, obviously, was to create my own AP course called Time and Space and Literature. Obviously.
That sounds very you.
Anyway, one of the books I ended up reading was a little book from, 1795 or 1785. It was a big year in the 1700s in publishing terms, because 3 major classic works in Western literature came out. But the one I read in particular was Lawrence Stern's The Life and Times of Tristram Shandy, or Tristram Shandy. And it's a first-person comic novel. It's like the first of it's the first novel as we know it today. It's got tons of weird typographical jokes, and how it's affected me and the way it's formative is I learned by reading that book what punctuation is supposed to be. It's not grammatical rules or bullshit like that. It's purely stage directions for your brain to make the words sound right. So I started using M dashes constantly. That's where I picked it up from. It's been, I don't want to say almost 20 years, but it's been almost 20 years and I still am in love with the M dash because I don't treat it as a, oh, this is an offset list or whatever the fuck. When I use the M dash, I want people to know that you're supposed to take a pause here. It's shorter than a period, but it's, maybe that's where you take your breath. Whatever. If you really want to learn how to use punctuation and fuck with people with it, I would definitely read The Life and Times of Tristram Shandy.
All right.
Legit.
Thank you.
All right, home stretch.
Last one.
Woo! But no, okay, so you guys know how I love musicals, right?
Uh-oh. Yeah.
Oh, no.
I know where it's going.
Oh, do you?
I do.
And the other day I was thinking about it. Why do I love them so much? And I figured out one of my first experiences with show tunes was actually The Muppet Show.
I didn't get it.
You didn't.
That's beautiful.
I'm willing to bet that you're probably thinking of Guys and Dolls.
I was.
Which, to be fair, is very important to me because it was a movie I watched with Grandma.
Yeah.
And one of the first full musicals I remember watching.
Mm-hmm.
But we were watching The Muppet Show since
before that. And I realized that one of my earliest memories of just a show tune being performed is the episode with Joel Grey, and his performance of, Cabaret and, Razzle Dazzle.
Of course.
In my adulthood, I now realize all the stuff that's going on with the Cabaret song. But as a child, it was just a fun number with the Muppets.
Mm-hmm.
And just all the Muppets and the showmanship and the catchy tunes. And there's the episode with Julie Andrews singing, I whistle a happy tune. So that no one will suspect I'm afraid. And in the end of the song, you can even fool yourself, to make yourself think that you're not afraid. And anyway, the point is, if I ever meet Kermit the Frog, I'm gonna lose my fucking shit.
Yep.
So yeah, The Muppet Show is deeply important to me.
I've introduced my girls to it, and honestly, there's a couple of Halloween compilations that they
I remember having your oldest on my lap, and you would watch, no, I had your oldest.
Oh, okay.
On my lap, watching old, Muppets clips.
Aww.
I remember this because your youngest was not yet born.
Aww. The first time my oldest ever laughed was, that we caught on film, like just broke down laughing at something that was clearly funny to her, was at a Muppets clip.
Muppets are magic.
It was Bohemian Rhapsody.
Nice.
Yeah, Animal saying, Mama, was the funniest shit she'd ever seen. She was like 9 months old, so she hadn't seen a lot. But
yeah. So, The Muppet Show.
Excellent. Al.
All right, Al.
Right. For mine, I'm going to go with a video game.
Oh. Do tell.
So everyone's aware, I had played plenty of video games before that, and they had stories, probably. They had a kinda, events are going from A to B.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You're going from left to right, so it's a story.
Linear.
Well, yeah. And then, one Christmas, you got The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time.
Oh.
And I wasn't even playing it, I was just watching you play at that time.
How is it important to you? Is it because of the story, or is it because of your associations with it?
A lot of associations, and also just building a world.
Like, being involved in it?
Yeah, not just, like, Bren, help me out here.
Yeah. Well, I think what's nice about it is that from a storytelling perspective, it didn't really go and railroad you into your choices. At least, at certain points of the game, it's just like, yeah, you can head over there, over there, over there. Doesn't matter. Just, go explore. And, oh, what do you know? There's a frickin' dragon in the mountain. Who knew? Better go kill it, Mr. Hero.
Well, and also, but it is a handy demonstration of the importance of world building. Like, it's often said that the author is supposed to know everything within their world, whether or not they tell the reader that. But in that game, like, yeah, the designers had to know the entire world because fuck it, the player could just decide to go into that random windmill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
There was a windmill in that game.
That's why I'm referencing it, because I love the music in it.
But yeah, I would love that game a lot more if spiders weren't so heavily featured.
And I still will play Zelda to this day, except for Breath of the Wild, because I have no money.
Fair enough.
Lol. Oh.
Speaking of Bren.
Nice.
All right. So in a similar note, like it's hard to pick a last one because there's just so many.
Oh yeah.
Like Al, I was also a gamer as well. So quick nod to like Final Fantasy IX because
Yep.
it was 1999, freshman year of high school. Yeah.
I'm replaying it right now because it was my first Final Fantasy.
Yeah. And great things about identity and all that. Again, love the themes in it. And I don't quite get why it doesn't get as much fond memories and praise. Although I think it holds up more so than a lot of the other Final Fantasies. But I'm going to go for the inspiration behind things like Final Fantasy. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to go with, the fact that when I was a kid, me and my friends, we'd do a lot of quasi Dungeons and Dragons, cause at the time being a small town, we didn't have like a lot of the rule books or anything like that. But what we ended up doing was kind of cobbling together our own little story and adventure. And anytime like we went off on trips for the scouts or anything like that, we would almost always go back to this fantasy world. There's always an evil overlord that we're trying to overcome. There were certain like almost references to ourselves that we'd be doing. I think at one point I lost my brain because, at this point we were like, preteens and that was funny.
It's still funny.
Yeah. But no, that in turn helped, inspire, just this open storytelling environment. And then, you can really expand from that. To the point where I'd encourage a lot of kids nowadays to go ahead and find a kid-friendly D&D table game, what have you, at a convention, stuff like that. Give it a try because, trying to create a character that is acted out by yourself and seeing how you react to a world and stuff like that can really get the creative brain juices flowing. So yeah.
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 So, like, your final influence was something you made yourself.
Oh.
It's like the macaroni art of choices. Well, that and I just remember when we would do car rides as a family, how I think Dad would like DM like off the cuff adventures just to keep us keep us entertained / not insane during the 7-hour drive to Grandma's house.
Yeah.
I remember we used to, when we went to go watch movies together, we would spend the 3-hour trip back to our house from going to see the movies, taking apart the films we'd seen.
And y'all, that's why we do this now.
It brings us to here.
Oh.
Bringing it home. Actually, what I'm gonna do? So again, when we were young, as the listener knows, or may have gleaned at some point, our parents are writers. And one of the book series that they contributed to was a series called Planet Builders, under the pen name of Robin Tallis. It was a bunch of other people were involved too. Sherwood Smith, I think Bruce Coville.
Mm-hmm. Uncle Bruce.
Yeah, I don't think Jane Yolen was, but she might have been. Don't remember. But a bunch of like sort of that group, and by we I of course mean myself as well. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it's about a bunch of teenagers in space, and they're helping not terraform but colonize a new world. There's a couple of native species there. There's a mystery. There's all sorts of things. It's a 6-book series until the publisher did something weird, but we're going to ignore the other ones. And I don't want to spoil anything because I genuinely think people should, be on the lookout for these books. If you can find them, they're fabulous. Avoiding spoilers, there is a situation where a trusted figure, and a figure that's been trusted throughout the series to the point where the reader themselves trust this person, turns out to be the fucking villain. And 6 books to get to the villain.
Ooh.
That son of a bitch.
And what I've remembered ever since I first read it was that sense of fucking betrayal. Like that piercing to the core. This realization that everything I thought I knew was wrong. It was this very visceral, reaction. The trusted character that turns out to be the bad guy. And I realized, yeah, that's sort of a given. It's, it's never who you suspect or whatever, blah, 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 blah. That's where the skill comes in. If you can make a reader fall in love with a reader or trust them or something and then pull that twist, damn. And ever since then, it's been a bulletproof for me.
Legit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I would seriously suggest people look for that series. I'm actually still looking for it.
Questing, as you will.
Indeed.
To this day.
Indeed.
Also, shout out to the Planet Builders books, because that's where the Quoofers come from, and Quoofers were the
quintessential part.
There's a lot going on in that series that was seriously formative for me. And also, Hope Punk.
Oh.
There you go, man. It checkmarks all the boxes when it comes to Hope Punk. Science nerds, planets.
Nerds in space. Muppets.
Bros, I think we did a good job here.
Yeah.
Fuck, we did. Yeah. We managed not to step on each other's toes too much.
Yeah.
And just to be clear here, there's a whole shitload more we could talk about here. I mean, for the sake of brevity, we just picked 3 each.
Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about. Those are literally the only 3 things that have ever affected me in my life.
Shall we,
Yeah.
All right.
As always, if you have a story to submit, head on over to nostorysacred.com/submission. Follow us on Twitter @nostorysacred, or send an email through contact@nostorysacred.com. Your hosts have been Alex MacDonald, Brendan MacDonald, Pippin MacDonald, and Catherine Crichton. Editing for this episode done by Brendan. Transcript done by Ashley DaCosta. Art by Jay Wolf. Show notes and transcripts are available at nostorysacred.com. Thanks for listening, everyone, and please rate, review, and subscribe to No Story Sacred. You can also visit our Patreon page to support the show and get neat rewards at patreon.com/nostorysacred. Until next time, we're No Story Sacred, and any story can be changed. Also, quick aside, what were some of your formative works? What really influenced you in what you read and how you write? And it doesn't even have to be stuff you liked. There's something that you hated. Something you hated so much you took it into yourself.
I stare at the fiction and the fiction stared back.
Until next time, where no story is sacred and any story can be changed. I'm Alex.
I'm Pippin.
I'm Brendan.
And I'm Kat.
And we're
No Story is Sacred.